Hello, everyone. My name is Phil Denshi. I am the project manager for Iowa Land Records. I've been with the project for some time and may have had the opportunity to present to you on many previous occasions. And I'm pleased to be with you here again today. We have a lot of information to cover. We're going to provide you with a very brief introduction into the new search application. We are going to address some administrative and organizational issues. Most of the people that are likely participants in today's session are admins with their ESubmission organization. And we're going to spend some time addressing what submission organizations can do from an administrator's perspective. We're going to talk just a little bit about central authentication and login procedures. We will be addressing and reviewing the administrator functions for submitter administrators. We'll also be talking about user roles within the submission organization, and then dive into discussion about what options submission organizations have to take advantage of the search tools. We will review the steps that will be necessary to enable your organization to use the search tools if you have not done that already, but there are some who may be participating today that haven't done that yet. We're going to walk through that process and why we're doing those things. We'll also be talking about steps that you may need to take to enable users in your organization to access the search tools. I'll be reviewing the method for navigating between the search and the submission applications. And we'll round out today's session by taking maybe a little bit deeper dive into the search tools. We will provide an opportunity for questions and answers. I would encourage any participant today to put a question in the chat pod. You don't have to wait until the end. Please take advantage of the opportunity to prepare a question and submit it to us. So let me just start kind of going back to the agenda. I want to just give you a brief introduction to the search application. Any submission organization, that is an organization that has been granted permission to electronically submit documents for recording through Iowa Land Records to Iowa County recorders, now have the technical ability to utilize the brand new search application that is in the process of being released. This search tool is now in production, but not everyone has access to it yet. We are going through a somewhat methodical process of adding in new users to the system. And we're starting actually with both Iowa County recorders and those who are already able to submit documents electronically. That is our starting group. And then as we go forward, we'll be opening up more to other organizations who are interested in taking advantage of it. What I'm sharing with you today, what you should see on your screen, and let me make sure that I am sharing that correctly. So I'm going to start a new share, and I'm sharing my Chrome browser application. And what you should see is the search application itself. This is what it looks like. It's fairly simple. And what will happen is that when you log into your ESubmission service, you will be granted access to this application. This application provides you with access to more than 23 million recorded documents, representing the digitized versions of documents in all 99 counties. We have generally set up the search tools to provide users with the easiest possible means to find what you're looking for without making it too complicated. I'm very pleased that we went through a process of focus groups with users and recorders in designing this new system. Some of the things that were mentioned as priorities were to try and simplify the search, not make it as complicated as our legacy search application is, but still provide some advanced tools for experienced users. And when we display the results, to simplify how the results are displayed, but also to show more information about each recorded document right out of the gate and not require too many clicks or too many steps to drill down to get some of the details. And we still aren't showing every piece of information about every document when you initially open it up. But you're going to see a lot more information than you saw before in the legacy application. Just a quick review. The simplified searches that we have generally are broken down into 5 groups. You can run a name search, which can be a search by person or organization. You can use a document reference number search. And by reference number, I mean the specific booking page or the document reference number assigned to a recorded document by a county recorder. You can also search by location description, or sometimes traditionally people refer to this as a legal description search, but really more technically it is a location search. That is being able to search by lot, block, subdivision name, or town if the land is platted, or to be able to search by section, township, and range if it is not platted. And so those options are incorporated here. If you are looking for a specific document type, such as a satisfaction of mortgage, or maybe a survey, and you're looking at a specific county, this is an opportunity for you to search just for those document types. That might help you reduce the number of search results and find what you're looking for more quickly. Then there is a basic county search. We have users who may just have a business function that requires them to check what has been recorded in a particular county in a particular date range. They may want to just say, I need to see everything that was recorded yesterday, or I need to see everything that was recorded last week. Those are the types of things that users may just simply need to see what's there, and the county search is just an easy way to do that. And then finally, we do provide an option of a more advanced search, and the advanced search allows you to mix and match some of those basic elements of the other searches into a single search. So if you're looking for a document that has been filed with the party name of Smith, and you know it's in a particular county, and you happen to know that it's in section 5, or it might even be a specific document type, you can mix and match those items to find it. Now, it is not a combination of everything, so you can't search for an unplatted land using something from each of those sections. You're either going to choose platted or unplatted land search, but you can combine a name search with a location search with a county document type and even reference numbers. So whatever combination you want to use, you will be able to do that with the new search application. That's just an introduction. I'm going to step away from this now because we have other information that we need to share with you. But I am going to come back to this and do some more specific demonstrations of how to use the search application later on in the presentation. So I want to go back briefly to my PowerPoint presentation, and I'll share that now. and just move on to some of the other administrative habits. So just a few slides here. Most of what I'm going to be doing is demoing and the application itself, but some things that you just need to know as basics. First is, what can ESubmission organizations do? So, as I mentioned, most of you today are representing organizations that are already enabled to be submitters in the Iowa Land Record System. And that means you can load a document up, provide some basic information, send it to our system. We present it to the county recorder. They review it. If it's okay, they will accept it. And then our system talks to the county system to get the document recorded. And you know how that works, so I won't go over that. So that's the premise that we're starting from. But then, if you want to, this is not a requirement, you can enable your organization to access the search tools. And you can determine who has access to the search tools. So if you have certain people that you want to give the search power to, as an administrator, you have the power to do that. If you want to enable everybody in your organization to have access to that search tool, just as a tool item in their toolkit, even if they don't use it that often, you can do that. If you want to, you can also structure it so that some people may be enabled to search, but they might not be authorized to submit anything. And I'll talk more about that as we get deeper into it. Another thing you'll want to understand is that this is all enabled because we have implemented what's referred to as a central authentication service. That means that when you log in, we are going to ask you to provide a user ID and password, and based on the permissions of your organization, that will determine what function you have access to. So if you log in as an ESubmission administrator, you can pretty much do anything. But if you log in as a submitter who is not an administrator, you may only be able to do certain things, like submit documents. You may or may not have the search capability if you haven't been granted permission to do that. And all of this is enabled by this central authentication system, where you log in through what's known as the CAS login, and that stands for Central Authentication System. And when you do that, then you have the ability to set up different permission sets for different people within your organization. Another thing that central authentication does is that as administrators, you no doubt have noted that we now require multi-factor authentication. And that is just an additional security tool to prevent bad actors from accessing the system. We only want authorized users to be able to do the things, and we certainly don't want unauthorized users to access our system or any individual submitter organization's account. So in this day and age, it's just a necessary thing, and central authentication is what gives us the power to do that. As an administrator for your organization, you have several functions that you are able to do. You are able to maintain your organization info. That includes contact information for your organization. There are elements of the ESubmission service where we ask you to tell us who is the best contact for us to use if a recorder has a question about a particular document. Those are things that administrators are responsible for doing. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but as an administrator, you need to make sure those duties are taken care of. Generally speaking, I would add that it is a good practice, if you can, to have more than one administrator designated for your organization. We have run into situations where uh, an organization was set up to be an ESubmission organization, and then the person who was the administrator left or was terminated, or for whatever reason they weren't a part of the organization anymore. And when that happened, they didn't have an administrator anymore. So think about having possibly more than one administrator, so you have a backup in case it is necessary. And another important thing that you as ESubmission administrators do is you manage your users. And it is primarily your responsibility to do that. Our administrative team and customer support team can help you do that if it's necessary. But generally speaking, if you need to add a user, that's something that you should do. If you need to delete a user, that's something that you should be doing. And if you need to modify a user, say change their permissions, or maybe update their email address, or reset their password, those are things that you as an administrator are empowered to do. And we are here to assist you when you run into trouble. But it is a function that you should take seriously. Another aspect of this that is very important for you to think about is, who do I want to have what authority within our organization? Who are the people that should be authorized to submit? Who are the other people that should be given the power to access our payment information and our accounting information? And who should be enabled to have access to the search tools? And depending on the size of your organization, or how you have subdivided functions within your organization, will determine your answer to that question. And as an administrator, particularly if you're in a little bit larger organization, you might have a division or a bureau, or maybe even different locations. It is something that you, as a part of your management team, should have a discussion about, to say, how should we organize this? Do we want to just have one big organization, or do we want to have separate organizations and accounts for each of our branch offices? Do we want everybody in our organization to have access to the search tools, or do we only want certain people to have access to that? Or do we not want to integrate search in our ESubmission activity at all? Maybe you might decide that it is better if you separate the search function from your ESubmission function. So I think an important point I want to be sure to convey to you is that give some thought to this. Don't jump in. We can help you undo things, or help you reorganize things if you change your mind, but it really will be beneficial for each of you as administrators, either with other administrators or other parts of your management team in your organization, to have a conversation about how you want to do this, and think about it ahead of time before you start making any changes. So there is no wrong answer. What we've tried to do with this system and with the central authentication system is give you choices about how you do this, and we're here to help you with that. So with that, I'm going to go back to and stay with the application demonstration. So let me make sure I'm where I want to be with that. And one of the things that you'll see with this is that you can navigate between the search application and the submission application. So quick review and demonstration of your function as an administrator. I am in production right now. I have a test account set up with my organization in ESubmission. So this is essentially the same thing that you would see, and you have the same powers that I'm demonstrating here. So when I talked earlier about maintaining your submitter organization, you have the power to enter all of this information and maintain it. And it is important that you maintain current information, especially your contact information. And notice here that I have a, a phone number here that I've designated as, this is the number you should call if you have a question about ESubmission. And then there's the email address that you would use if you needed to contact the user by email. You have the ability to maintain your account in terms of the overall central authentication system. You have the ability to maintain your payment information here. And you know, depending on whether you pay with a credit card or a debit card, you know, you have the ability to choose this edit button. And I would just remind you that anybody in your organization that is set up as an admin has the ability to maintain your payment information. And anybody that is set up with the accounting function also has that same ability. And then in terms of the user management, you have the ability to add users, delete users. So if you want to edit a user, you can click on the pencil icon and do that. If you want to reset their password, you can do that using this link. And then if you want to delete a user because they have left your organization, you can do that as well. Generally speaking, I would just say any user that you delete, make sure that any pending documents that they might have worked on, if they're not finished with them, make sure they get cleared out before you delete a user's account. And you have the ability to add a user account, and that is located here. And so one of the things that you would do when you're adding an account is you would make a decision whether or not you wanted them to participate in the search application, whether you wanted to give them access to it. And as an ESubmission administrator, when you create a new user account, you have the ability to set them up either as another submitter administrator, or you can set them up as a submitter user. And a submitter user can prepare documents in groups, and they can submit them to a county for possible recording, but they don't have access to any of your organization information or your payment information. A submitter user is there just to submit and do nothing more than that. And then we also have this role of submitter accounting. And submitter accounting is basically they have access to your payment and reporting information, but they can't submit anything. So it's a way for you to differentiate those roles if that makes sense for your organization. And then finally, we have added a new role to your user organization, and that is if your organization is enabled for access to the search application, you will be able to set up users who only can search. So they will log in just like everybody else in your organization, but they would not have access to ESubmission. They would only have access to the search tools. And when they logged in, they would go directly to the search application and they would never see anything in your ESubmission application. That's the way it is set up. So again, this fits into the role that you decide how you want to set this up for your organization. And that's why we wanted to reach out to you as administrators today to make you understood, make sure you understood how this all worked. I'm going to go back to my application here and then just review again. If you are administering your organization and you want to perform these administrative functions, including enabling users in your organization to set up and access the search tools, then that is up to you. And you do that by maintaining your users. So if I were to go to one of the, I have a couple of test user accounts, and if I went into a particular user and edited their information, it would be up to you to decide whether or not you would enable their search. I will say one thing, and that is that one additional thing, and that is that any administrator that you set up is automatically going to have the ability to search. It can be disabled, but generally speaking, you will be granted search authority if you are an administrator. If you are a submitter or an accounting function, out of the gate when you create them, they won't be enabled for search. You will have to explicitly give them permission to do so. So that's an important sidebar note that I wanted to share with you. So that is really a quick description of the roles that exist for submitter organizations. If you're a submission organization and you set up a user account, you have those four roles. And I should maybe clarify one thing, and that is if I were going to add a new user to the system and you wanted that user to only be able to search and not be a submitter, the way you would do that is you would choose the role of search user, and then you would also check this box to enable search. Okay. If you're setting up a new user and they're a submitter user, for example, they're just a submitter user, that's their only role, but you can expand their tool set to include search. And all you have to do in that case is select enable search. So again, if you want to create a user that does not have access to search, to submission, but you do want to give them access to search, you do it by choosing the search user role and you check the box that says enable search. Okay. I think that covers that point essentially. So let me move on to the steps for enabling search. So the way you start, if you haven't done this already, and you do need to do this if you want to access the search application, is that you have to ask permission. And there's a couple reasons why we're doing it this way. One of them is that, well, this is a new application. And if you don't already have permission to use it, there is a terms of service and a privacy policy that is associated with the search application that your organization may not have previously accepted. In fact, it's likely you didn't accept it because it didn't exist before. So we are asking every organization that is an ESubmission organization to submit a new application if you want to be or have access to the Iowa Land Records Search Service. And in the application, you would want to be in a position to go to this web address at iowalandrecords.org ESS business application. And I'm just going to copy that here and that address. This is the application form that you would use. And you will want to, as I'm demonstrating here, check both of these boxes to say that you are asking for authorization for both the ESubmission service and the Iowa Land Record Search Service. Now, the reason that we're doing that is that we have recently updated our terms of service, not just for the new search application, but also for ESubmission. And the terms of service are accessible to you, and you can examine those. And generally speaking, what the changes in the terms of service are updated to reflect the fact that we have modified the terms so that in the future we're going to be setting up organizations for search, but we're also asking all of our users to reaffirm that you're agreeing with the terms of service, even if you are only an ESubmission customer. So this is something that we're asking everybody to do. We will not be able to set you up for the new search application unless you accept the updated terms of service and privacy policies. And this is just a way for us to disclose to everybody what the rules are for accessing and using the system. Otherwise, the application is fairly straightforward. We're asking you to specify and update us on your organization type. If you have information about where you heard about this, you can enter that here. Your organization information should be the same as you've already set up. And there are some things that you will not be required to do if you are already set up. So if you're already a submitter organization, we would ask you to update and complete your address information and your contact information and so on. The one thing that we're not requiring everybody to do if you're already a submitter is you're an existing customer. You don't have to prove it up to us. But any new organization that is not in ESubmission, we are asking them to verify their legitimacy as a business or an organization in the state of Iowa or wherever they're located. And so that information is requested here, but you will not be required to provide the SOS number or trade name if you're already a submitter organization. And then at the bottom, because you may have an existing administrator, I would just recommend that you enter if you're an admin and you're authorized to submit this application on behalf of your organization, just put in your own username for the ESubmission service and your contact information. And then last but not least, this is the checkbox where you would agree to the information that you've submitted as accurate. And it's also where you provide access to the terms of service. And I'm just going to click on that link real quickly to show you the location of that. Hopefully that comes up successfully. Yeah. So our updated terms of service is here, and I'm going to post that into the chat as well, so you have access to that. Okay, I am not going to take time to go through the terms of service, but if you've ever clicked on the accept terms of service for any other website, you're going to be comfortable with that. And then last but not least, if you type in your name here, we're going to consider that to be your digital signature, and then we'll be on our merry way. Okay, so now the next part of this is how to get to the search. So you're a submitter. You are a submission administrator, or you're a submission accounting function, or you are just a submitter, somebody who only submits documents, but you've been granted the ability to access the new search application. So the way you do that is your menu has changed. And the menu, which is located in this top navigation bar, and I'm just going to go to chat real quick, just to want to verify, Lisa, I want to verify that I have the e-submission application up on screen. That's what everybody is seeing before I get too far ahead.
You are seeing e-submission with pending groups. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for verifying that. So in this top menu bar, you have home. You have the ability to change your password. On the far right is your logout activity. If you want to access things that we provide you as training resources, or you need access to the customer support information, or if you want to do a quick check of the transfer tax calculator, you can do that. I've already shown you the admin area, which you should be very familiar with. But now you're going to see two new menu items. Previously, the only menu item you had here was search, and that was to provide access to our e-submission search tools. It is now labeled e-search. And if you click on e-search, it is going to open up the same tools that you have seen before. And so if you want to search for recently recorded documents, again, e-search is just searching for your groups and your records within the e-submission service. It is not the entire database. It's just your stuff, what you're processing with the counties. In addition to viewing recently recorded documents, you can search by group name or submission number, or you can search by county. Hopefully you're all familiar with that. But you now are going to be choosing a new menu item called eSearch, and E is, in this case, implies it is a search of e-submission records. That's why it's called eSearch. A new menu item has been added to your application, your e-submission application, and it is called ILR search. And if you click on that link, that will navigate you away from e-submission and will take you to the new search application. This is something that is very easy to flip back and forth with. So now you're not looking at an e-submission screen. You have not changed tabs. You're still in the same browser tab, but you're using the search application, not your submission application. Whenever you're done searching, you need to go back to your submitter activity. You go to this link that I'm hovering over here and click on submitter. And that will take you back to your homepage and e-submission with your list of pending groups that you can continue to process documents. And so that is how you navigate back and forth. So remember, if you want to search for the 23 million records we have online, select ILR search. And if you want to search for your e-submission records, then just search using the e-search tool, and that brings us back to the search application. I want to enable my chat pod again because now we've got roughly 20 minutes left, and I want to be sure to give you a demonstration of the search application itself, now that we've covered all of the business and organizational issues that we needed to cover. I want to pause and just see if there are any additional questions. I see that Lisa has helped answer a few questions in chat already. Are there any other questions that anybody has about any of the administrative or organizational issues that I've covered so far? Any questions about that? The question is, will the current ILR search site be disabled in the future? And the answer to that is yes. We are not going to be turning it off immediately because it's going to take time to migrate people from the legacy search to the new search. And as I described previously, our focus right now is enabling the new search application for our existing e-submission customers. That's where we're focused right now. We have hundreds of e-submission customers, and we want to make sure that we do that first. Once we've made progress on that, then we will begin to open it up to our current search users. And there is not going to be any kind of central authentication process for our current search users. Anybody that's not a submitter and who wants to have access to our search application, they're going to have to set up a new account entirely in our central authentication service. There's no migrating. It's just, we're going to say set up your new account. And once we make progress on that, then we will consider disabling the existing search. Generally speaking, if I had to put a time frame on it, anybody that is using the search application right now through the legacy app process, you should be prepared for the legacy search to go away sometime this fall. That's the general time frame. Not picking or publishing a specific date. Our primary focus is on helping users change. So when you log in to the new central authentication service, you're going to be using your password, user ID and password for ESubmission, because you already have that account. And once we turn off legacy, that user ID and password for the old user, the old search application is no longer going to work. It's just going away. So for right now, if I understand your question, Gail, while we've got both systems set up, if you want to access the new search, you're going to log into ESubmission and you're going to use the central authentication password. While the legacy search application is still up, you can still use your same old user ID and password. But at some point, probably sometime this fall, that application is just going to go away and you'll only have the new search to deal with. Will the submission still need to be sent at lower print resolutions? I'm not sure if that is a search question. I guess I'm not clear on exactly what you mean by the lower print resolutions. I would say that, when you submit a PDF document in ESubmission, there's really no reason to have a DPI resolution above 600 DPI. 300 is still the sweet spot. You may not be aware of it, but we made changes in our image management during the past year that significantly improve our ability to handle submitted images. So I think I would say if you have a specific question about your submissions, send us a note to support@chorus.com, or maybe attach in an email an example of something you would like to try. But with the information I have, that's about as far as I can go. Yes, I agree with Lisa's response that 300 DPI is really the sweet spot of where you need to be. How will individuals search public info in ILR if they won't have access to this new search application? Just curious how that will change once the current search goes away in the fall. So I think that's a great question. Why are we doing some of the things in this new web? I think the main reason is that as we gain experience, we have bad actors in the marketplace that are not following the rules. We are trying to manage the resources of our system so that it works quickly and speedily and efficiently. And there are folks that are just not doing what we asked them to do. The state and recorders did not set this site up to allow people to just download the whole database. It's there as a tool, a research tool to support your business functions. And for that reason, we feel like we have to have a greater understanding and control over and knowledge of who our users are. That's why we're asking everybody to submit a new application, particularly for the search service, but asking our existing submitter users to also accept the updated terms of use. We want to make sure that we have the good actors accessing the system, not the bad actors. And that is also one of the reasons why we are primarily focused on setting up accounts for organizations, because we're not going to have individually self-administered user registration anymore. There's going to have to be an application. So if you're a business user, a realtor, an abstractor, a bank, a real estate attorney, or you work in any of those types of organizations, we're going to ask you to submit that business application as I shared with you before. And then we're going to ask you to set up an administrator, and we're going to ask you to take responsibility for administering your own users. That said, we know that there still needs to be an ability for individuals to be able to look up their own records and so on, and we're going to do that. And let me just take a second to illustrate that. So if everything's working correctly, I'm sharing with you the application form, and at the very top, you'll see this highlighted message that says, if you are an individual seeking permission to access your personal or family records, we want you to go here to gain access to the individual Iowa Land Records Search Service. And you would click on this link, and it would take the applicant to a new page to submit a separate application to set up an account. And this isn't an individual, this isn't an organization application. This is just for individuals to use, and we're asking them to identify themselves. And, you know, I can't tell you how many thousands of accounts we've seen set up over the years with Mickey Mouse or some other fictitious name that really has no meaning. We're asking individuals to identify themselves as a user, and we will set them up. We will ask them to review the terms of service as well. The main difference is that the volume of searching that can be done, or the volume, I should say, of viewing documents, is going to be less than that granted to the organizations and companies. So we understand an abstractor or somebody doing research, they're going to need access to more records, and we're going to facilitate that. But if you're an individual searching for your own records, you're not going to need that same access. And for anybody who tried to set up a fake account in order to circumvent our rules, that's not going to be very beneficial, because if they set up a search application, it won't have the same utility as a full-fledged company registration. I hope that makes sense. So what we tried to do is set it up so that we're taking care of our real estate industry customers, making sure they have the tools that they need. But we also have a side door that any individual can come in and say, hey, I want to set up an account too. And we'll do that. I don't think we're going to be too restrictive on that, but it is going to be limited compared to the business accounts that we set up. So I will be open to feedback as we get deeper into this. I know we're going to get more questions about that, and I would be happy to address that as we go forward. So I have some limited time here. I want to cover some really important things you need to know about search. In the future, we'll be doing more training and webinars on the finer points of searching, but I'm going to cover some very, very important but basic information that you need. So the first thing I want to talk about is wildcards. In the legacy application, behind the scenes in the search algorithm, there was an implicit inclusion of wildcards in certain situations. And when those wildcards were used, oftentimes that produced maybe more results than what the user was looking for. And they may not have even been aware that there was a wildcard at work. What we found in working with our users and listening to our focus groups is they wanted us to be more precise in presenting the information that they were looking for. So we have changed the search application to require the explicit use of a wildcard. Okay. And by explicit means that the search is going to be doing a character string search, and it's going to be looking exactly for that character string, no variations, unless you include a wildcard. And the example, I'm going to use myself as an example here, and because it does illustrate how this works. So I'm going to type in my last name and my first name, and I'm going to run a search. Whoops, I need to choose county. Most of my records are in Polk County, so I'm going to search in Polk. Notice that I'm not entering a date range. The date range is not a required element, but if I wanted to narrow the search results, I could do that. And when I run the search, the results come up fairly quickly, and you'll notice that I have 14 results. So I've changed hands on a couple of properties over the years, and so I've got 14 records, and you can see that that my name filled entry is here right in the grantor grantee list, and you know it's what you would expect to see, but you ask yourself, is that everything? And the answer is no, it is not, because over time there are some records where the preparer filled it out with my full first name, Philip. And my first name is Philip, just one L. And there are no Phillips in this list. So if I want to find everything with Philip, I'm going to have to add in that IP. And now we've got another set of results here, but you can see that the records that we're looking at are with my full first name. Is that everything? Is that the same 14 list? And the answer is not necessarily. It could be, but we can't count on it. If we want to be sure that we're getting everything with that's associated with my name, I am going to add a wildcard to this. And so I've taken my first name, I've added the wildcard character, which is an asterisk, and we're going to search on that. And you're going to find that instead of 14 results, there are 29 results. And I would consider this to be a more complete listing because it's asking for anything with my last name that starts with PHIL. So pretty much any variation of my name that begins PHIL, whether it is followed by an L or two L's or two L's and a P, you know, I mean, it's going to catch everything. And so I want you to be aware that this wildcard, this explicit wildcard function is at work in the new search application, and you should be taking advantage of it. Another thing that I would share with you is that if you look at any of the search elements, so it really doesn't apply to counties because that's an enumerated list. Document types is an enumerated list, so you know there aren't any variations in spelling. But if you get into organization names, you know there are various ways that those should be represented. And the important thing is to keep in your mind the idea, I know it starts with this, and then, but you may be uncertain about the following letters, then you would use the wildcard character. The wildcard character can also come into play in any of the other text fields that you can type into, including the reference numbers, really comes into play. These towns that are listed here are just being shown because of my browser. It's not an enumerated list. So if you are looking for a certain city, you might use a wildcard. So I want to see everything that begins with the letter A. Subdivision names are also fields where the wildcard would be applicable. So pretty much anything that is not an enumerated list, like a county name or a document type, or the date range, obviously, anything that you could type text into, that wildcard feature can come into play. If I go back to my name search and I search, I'm just going to use my same example here, and I'm going to put the wildcard in, then I can run that search. Oops. And I want you to be aware that you can drill down into this. And so if you want to see additional details about a particular property, and let me see if I can, I'm going to actually try to find a warranty deed here. So I'm going to look at the warranty deed, and that's going to bring up information that includes the other parties' information, and it's going to include the information about platted and unplatted land as well. If there was an associated document in the recorder's database, then that would appear here as well. The other functions that are associated with the results, if I want to view the document, I would just click on the PDF icon. It will open up in your browser using your PDF viewer. So that really hasn't changed. If you want to download it or print it, that will be a function of your PDF application. We've also added this triangle button here so that if you see an error, which might be the inclusion of personally identifiable information, or maybe you say that a document has been indexed incorrectly, or maybe there's something with the document, maybe there's a page missing, or the image quality is poor, we provide opportunities for you as the user to report that to us so that we can get that corrected. I also would just highlight that you have the ability to create a saved search. So I'm going to just type this in as Phil search here, and we're going to save that. I'm going to try, I must not have completed that. It should be there. Okay, and now Phil search shows up in the saved searches. And if I were to run a county search, let's just say I'll choose Polk again, and just the current day. Okay, and I wanted to go back to my saved search. If you click on the saved search, it runs the search immediately. And if you need to refine the search, it's very easy to change a search and modify it as you desire. And I think those are the main things that I wanted to cover. I guess I do want to speak again, maybe a little bit more about this. If I were running a county search, and I just said, okay, my business requires me to just keep track of all of the records that a county records. And I just said, okay, I'm searching for Paul. I want to see all the records that were recorded last week. I can see that. A final thought I want to share with you is that the search really is built from the standpoint that the search itself is unlimited. The only thing that is limited is how many views you can have a day. And we have set a policy. This has been a long-standing policy that has largely been unenforced, but will now be enforced programmatically. And that is each individual user has 120 document views allowed per day. Pardon me. Per day, and you'll see that that information is updated here. So I've already looked at one document. Now I have 119 views remaining in that particular day. I've been asked to click on a mortgage document. So let me find a mortgage. Okay, here's a mortgage document. And if you view the details of the document, I may not understand what you're asking me, but I think the answer is, or the question is, what does it look like as to whether it's open or released? I think the only indicator might be is if there is an associated document. And I'm going to maybe go back and look at a satisfaction of mortgage document and view that instead. And you can see here that in this particular satisfaction of mortgage, there is an associated lien agreement in this case. And if I wanted to go and view the details of that, it will take you right there. So I hope that answers your question. I think I've run out of time. I appreciate everybody's attention today. I hope this has been useful to you. There will be more webinars scheduled in the future that dive into some of the more detailed aspects of the search itself. But we felt it was important that as submitter organizations, but you also be introduced to some of the administrative functions and choices that you have to make before you dive into the new search application. I think once you have access to the new search application, you'll find that it is intuitive and that it works pretty well. And I wish you happy searching. With that, I'm going to bring this to a close. I think I've looked at all of the remaining questions that you have. So I wish you all a great summer, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.